Does CPAC approve MAGA, conservative, and care more than queer community? The Conservative Political Action Conference this past weekend was a devil's carnival of bad acting, crazy speeches, and calls for violence. One of the featured performances done by none other than Queer News Tonight guest anchor, former hairdresser and convicted insurrectionist Brandon Straka.
Marjorie, you've got to pressure your colleagues to do something about it when we get those houses back.
Even for the people, I think everybody is in agreement that anybody who committed violence, vandalism, who caused extreme fear on that day needs to pay an appropriate price for what they did. But there are a lot of people who are suffering, I think, unduly. I think it's very disproportionate to what they actually did. And even more than that, I would like to say at this point that the hatred on both sides has to stop. It's time to forgive people who made mistakes on both sides. It's time to start seeing each other as human beings again. And it's time to stop enjoying and taking pleasure in the suffering of other people.
Breitbart News co-founder Steve Bannon perpetuated the stolen election conspiracy and declared that the GOP was at war with the left, saying that passing of anti-discrimination policies were totalitarian.
We're at war. We are at war. We're at a political and ideological war. You can say anything else you want about it, but we're at war. Think about after high noon on the 20th of January 2021, when an illegitimate imposter took over 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and took over an administration. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that's looked at the facts and look at the information from Arizona and Wisconsin and Michigan and Georgia and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald J. Trump. And all the Republicans and all the controlled opposition that says, oh, it's about the future, elections are about now. We cannot go forward. This is not about President Trump. This is not about Donald J. Trump. This is issues far deeper than President Trump. This is about this republic, what was bequeathed to us and what we're going to bequeath to our children and our grandchildren.
Marjorie Taylor Greene credited Virginia turning red in the last election on a trans teen raping a girl in a school bathroom. While the teenager in question was known to wear skirts similar to the one worn by Brad Pitt recently, he identifies as a cisgender, heterosexual male. The right has used his fashion as a hot button to turn the public against trans children and push through bathroom bills.
I think what we've seen, what just happened in Arizona, Carrie Lake winning her primary, who I endorse, Blake Masters winning his primary, I endorsed him as well as many other great candidates that are winning. I think it shows that there's a hunger and an appetite for a new Republican Party. But I'll tell you, there's some issues that I want to see Republicans get stronger on because I know they're important to Republican voters, and that is being the party that actually protects children. Right now, this gender confusion and these gender mutilation surgeries that they're wanting to perform, and they are performing on kids under 18 years old, is absolutely wrong. It is child abuse and it needs to end. The puberty blockers and hormone treatments, that needs to end. It's not about judging people's sexuality. It's about protecting kids and stopping them from making a life-altering decision that's going to affect them for the rest of their lives, and it could affect them in really bad ways. Republicans have to step up there.
Senator Ted Cruz called the CPAC attendees to attack Democrats as if they were Roman gladiators, saying Congress was a, quote, target-rich environment, and said the people in the crowd were dangerous radicals who could become heroes.
In the Senate every day, I represent 30 million Texans, and my job, it's like the old Roman Colosseum, where you slam on a breastplate and you grab a battle axe and you go fight the barbarians. And as they say in the military world, it is a target-rich environment. I am spending almost every waking moment crisscrossing this country campaigning for candidates for the Senate, candidates for the House, because we're going to retake our country. I am on the road nonstop, number one, to win back the House and Senate, but number two, to actually elect real conservatives with backbone and principle.
There were cardboard stand-ups of Donald Trump with Rambo's body. The headliner for the convention was Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Orbán's calls for racial purity and limited elections went over well with the crowd at the event. He received cheers when discussing how the best way to be free was to restrict the freedom of the left, saying they decided they needed, quote, less drag queens and more Chuck Norris.
Hungarian people rejected sexual orientation programs in schools without parental consent at a referendum again. Never before has there been a referendum in the long history of Hungary where such a huge majority of people said no to gender or anything. Now the Hungarian Constitution protects families and children. Let me quote a few sentences from our Hungarian fundamental law. Our Constitution reads, "The family and the nation constitute the principal framework of our coexistence. Hungarian state institutions are obliged to protect the Christian culture of Hungary. Hungary shall protect the institution of marriage as the union of one man and one woman. Family ties shall be based on marriage or the relationship between parents and children. To sum up, the mother is a woman, the father is a man, and leave our kids alone. Full stop, end of discussion." We decided we don't need more genders, we need more rangers. Less drag queens and more Chuck Norris.
This type of sensationalist showmanship turns these events away from a political rally and towards a religious experience. For conservatives, turning voters into zealots eager to do whatever their demagogues wish. With primaries fast approaching, it will be hard for the LGBTQ+ community to stand up against the irrational idol worship of the right-wing voters. Was this like Crazy Con? Like, this was Crazy Con. It really was. Are you as blown away as I am? Like, every other sentence, I was like, holy crap.
Like, where do you even begin? The fact that we invited Orbán to speak at an American Republican meeting is basically what it is.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented.
Isn't he like a racist also?
He's
like big time?
Oh.
Zsa Zsa Gabor is spinning in her grave right now. But I just want to say the thing with Straka. I mean, the fact that he was almost, of all those people, he was almost making sense. But remind him,
he's the gay one in the room.
But remind him that snitches get stitches and hugs from crazy bitches. That's MTG, by the way.
Yeah. Well, we're sitting in a situation that is dire. This story is incredibly important. Normally, we wouldn't report on the craziness of CPAC, but CPAC has elevated itself to being the #1 place of anti-LGBT in the world. In that room was the greatest concentration of LGBTQ haters arguably ever in history, and making LGBT their central theme of what they think they're going to win their elections on by marginalizing us. We have talked many, many times what it would have been like to be in Germany in 1938. We just watched the Socialist Democratic Party and Adolf Hitler in various inclinations speak in 1938. We just watched it at CPAC. That is why this story is so incredibly important in a gay television news show, because we have watched the drums being beaten against us. They use phrasing of war. Bannon says to call out in the dog whistle he blows, "We're at war, we're at war, we're at war." And then you hear Ted Cruz define how we're going to win our war. We're going to be gladiators and kill them in the Colosseum. We are going to be like the military going to war, and it is a target-rich environment. And what is the weapon that they use? They use AR and other high-powered weapons to kill their enemy. That's the dog whistle Ted Cruz is blowing. A senator of the United States saying, kill LGBTQ.
And bragging about the number of people he represents in Texas.
And basically he's the same size, by the way, of Hungary.
Right.
So two leaders of two nations are saying this is what we're going to do. This is really important to the LGBTQ community. The remaining issue that I don't understand is there's acronyms here of CPAC. There's acronyms here of LGBTQ+. The point of this story is they're whipping our ass. Whipping our ass. They have elevated us to being the #1 target in the world in this conservative bent. Bannon, by the way, when he goes, everyone agrees. There is not a shadow of a doubt that he was an illegitimate president that came to power on January 20th, and he took over the United States. Well, you know the only people that disagree with that is the White House chief counsel, the vice president of the United States, the majority of Donald Trump's cabinet, the majority of all of the people that served in the White House for Donald Trump.
Yep.
Those are all the people that disagree.
And he quoted that if you really look at it, Arizona was won by Trump. Well, their own people said he didn't win Arizona.
He
lost Arizona.
Totally lost Arizona.
But he said, we won, just look at Arizona. It's like, no, you didn't, and your people recounted.
Well, and then the fact that now Carrie Lake in Arizona is moving forward. I mean, with Marjorie Taylor Greene's blessing. I mean, Arizona is pretty scary. I mean, it's almost as scary as Florida.
Well, it almost is like the January 8th committee that we didn't get to see. Well, January 8th group mob that hit on the Capitol. We don't know what the meetings were like before that, but I tend to believe that on a smaller scale, they were just like the CPAC.
Yes, being stirred up.
Yeah, stirring everyone up.
I think the bottom line here is I have tried to be careful. We've had at Core News tonight many conversations about the crazy MTG she's just a nut job. Period. The end. And that's the best that you can say for her. But she doesn't move and lead the conservative nature of Trumpism and America. She does not do that. CPAC over the weekend, however, becomes a whole new level, at least from my news eye of this. This core of people that are regenerating Donald Trump and regenerating what their agenda is in America and using the LGBT portion of America. This is not just trans. White gay guys, they're after you. Using words of war and target-rich environments, meaning gunning you down.
During a Pride festival or anywhere else you might be in a theater.
People are listening to these kinds of conversations. A DeSantis going after a drag queen at our house. These are all central, same issues. This is moving into dangerous territory.
Yeah.
And the question is, what we're reporting here is how does the LGBTQ community respond to it? Our traditional successes that we have seen over the last 2 or 3 decades are not going to work this time.
Well, so Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. But seriously, it might be late.
Right. He won despite her saying that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We better be paying attention. This is dire news that we're reporting.
LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+ community.